Most influential Adivasi politicians of the 20th century in modern politics. In making the world better, the most popular of the 6 black, indigenous, aboriginal, tribal or Adivasi personalities who have left a deep mark on modern 20th century politics are Jaipal Singh Munda, Joe Gary, Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X, Franz Fanon, and Steve Biko. These are the people who posed a serious challenge to racial and imperialist politics with their socio-economic commitment, impressive oratory, amazing foresight and leadership skills. Defining the rights of ancestral self-government of tribal society in the framework of modern politics, these pioneer leaders fought for the interests of Adivasis, women, minorities and weaker sections in their respective countries, and became the outspoken and courageous voice of those who had been neglected and oppressed for centuries. With the political ideas of indigeneity or Adivasidom, they stimulated the Adivasi movements going on not only in his country but around the world, gave it a new edge and became popular as the strongest and most influential leader against racial and imperialist politics. These sharp, intelligent and influential leaders of the Adivasi society have not only played a role in shaping the modern politics of the 20th century but have made a stellar contribution in humanizing it. Joseph R. Gary. One of the Red Indian Indigenous groups of America is the Coeur d'Alene tribal community. The people of this Adivasi community live in the Idaho area of America, which is the area between the lake and the mountains. Joe or Joseph R. Gary was the great-grandson of Chief Spokane Gary of the Coeur d'Alene Adivasi community and the most influential leader of the Red Indian Adivasi communities. He was president of the National Conference of American Indians, the largest political organization of Red Indians, for 7 years from 1953 to 1959, and headed the Supreme Adivasi Council of his own Adivasi community for 25 consecutive years. He was the first Northwest Indian Adivasi to be awarded the highest title of Outstanding Indian in 1957. In the late 1950s, he was the first Native Indian to be elected a legislative representative to the Idaho legislature. According to the Historical Society, Gary held a number of elected positions at the local, state, and national levels that no Red Indian Adivasi had reached before him. On his death, the National Conference of American Indians said, the Red Indian tribal community was able to capture their native land, it was only because of Gary. He successfully protected the integrity of the tribal land and played a major role in the economic improvement of the tribal reservation areas. And he invented tribal government as we know it. Born on March 8, 1910, Joe Gary died on December 31, 1975 at the age of 65. Nelson Mandela. One of the greatest leaders of the 20th century, Nelson Mandela was born on the 18th of July 1918 in a typical South African Adivasi family. He is the most popular indigenous symbol in South Africa and around the world opposing apartheid. Nelson Mandela, who opposed centuries of apartheid in South Africa, was the president of the African National Congress and its armed faction, Umkhonto we Sizwe. He was imprisoned for 27 years due to the anti-apartheid struggle. He faced unbearable torture during his prison life and also worked as a coal laborer on Robben Island while in prison. After the historic struggle of him and several Adivasi organizations, South Africa was liberated from the slavery of the white government in 1990 and he became the first president. New South Africa was built under his able leadership. He is the only Adivasi leader in the world whose birthday has been decided by the United Nations to celebrate Nelson Mandela International Day. This great Adivasi leader died on the 5th of December 2013. Malcolm X. Malcolm X was a black American religious chief and human rights leader. Born on May 9, 1925, Malcolm Black has been the most popular leader of the American civil rights movement, where white Americans remembered him for his controversial advocacy of the rights of black people. Black people accept him as a fighting human rights leader who harshly blamed white America for historical injustices and crimes. He was martyred on the 21st of February 1965. When he was assassinated in a hall in New York City that time too, he was roaring fiercely against American imperialism and racism. Malcolm X's real name was Malcolm Little. His family was one of those slaves who were kidnapped and forcibly brought to America centuries ago. His early life was very difficult, and to fulfill his needs, he used to commit petty theft and robbery. While in prison, he came into contact with a Muslim religious organization active among the black community. After release, he joined him and converted to Islam. Only after this, he became famous as Malcolm X instead of Malcolm Little. The Islam that Malcolm adopted was a different type of Islamic sect, whose supreme religious leader was a black. Due to differences on the question of black rights, Malcolm left his association with that sect and laid the foundation of a new Islamic sect. But he became most popular for his unique and belligerent struggle for black people's rights rather than for his new religion. The struggle for life of this greatest Adivasi leader of the 20th century is in fact the story of a black spiritual transformation, underpinning the philosophy of black self-respect, black nationalism, and Pan-Africanism. Franz Fanon. The biggest Adivasi phenomenon in the world of political thought is Franz Fanon. The Third World regards Fanon as one of the leading anti-colonial thinkers of the 20th century, due to two books on ideological criticism, A Dying Colonialism, and The Wretched of the Earth. People believe that till now no important work has been written on political freedom than The Wretched of the Earth, in which Fanon intensely analyzes the role of class, caste, national culture and violence in the struggle for national liberation. His first book was Black Skin, White Mask, which created panic as soon as it was published. But he was not a mere writer and intellectual, but one of the supreme leaders of the Communist Party of France and Algeria, who was very popular among the masses due to his militant ground struggle. Fanon was born on July 20, 1925, on the Caribbean island of Martinique, which was then a French colony. He died in the United States of America on the 6th of December 1961 from leukemia. Then he was only 36 years old. But in this short life, he played a remarkable role as a hero of two wars, a belligerent politician from the Caribbean, Europe and North Africa, a playwright, a psychiatrist, author of many articles in scientific journals, a teacher, a diplomat, a journalist. Not only this, he was the editor of an anti-colonial newspaper, the author of 3 books, and a prominent Pan-African and internationalist thinker and leader. He was a revolutionary tribesman who valued poetry and whose ideas deeply influenced the Third World struggle of the 20th century. Steve Biko. Born on the 18th of December 1946 in South Africa, Steve Biko is one of the most popular leaders of the 20th century, who gave a militant edge to the anti-apartheid tribal struggle with his writings and activism, and died fighting. Most popular especially among youth and students, Biko is considered an ideologically African nationalist and African socialist who was at the fore of the Black Consciousness movement's anti-apartheid campaign during the 1960s and 1970s. Fearful of his political views and actions, he was placed under house arrest by the South African white government. He was banned from expressing views, writing and giving speeches in public. But he did not miss any opportunity to organize and address the students and youth by dodging the white government. He also continued to write under the pseudonym of Frank Talk. In 1966, when he was a medical student at the University of Natal, he became an active member of the National Union of South African Students and became involved in political activity. when he saw that all the organizations in the name of Adivasis were also dominated by moderate whites. Then he and his colleagues laid the foundation of the South African Student Organization in 1968. Biko believed that white liberals failed to understand the Adivasi experience and often thought and acted about Adivasi people in a patriarchal way. So he had a clear view that to elude white supremacy, black people would have to organize freely and lead the struggle. Membership of his organization was open only to blacks. According to Biko, which meant not only Bantu-speaking Africans black but all oppressed communities. Irrespective of the restrictions imposed on him, he was arrested on the 17th of August 1977 when he was traveling. He was illegally kept naked and tortured endlessly in police lockups for almost a month. Due to which Biko died on the 12th of September 1977. Jaipal Singh Munda. Jaipal Singh Munda of India is one of the greatest Adivasi leaders of the 20th century. Who was not only the captain of the 1928 champion Olympics Indian hockey team, but also the biggest hero of the Indian struggle for Adivasi rights. Jaipal Singh Munda was a much bigger figure in the modern political history of India than the stature of Gandhi, Nehru, Jinnah and Ambedkar. But political historians have never given a just space to this shaven politician and thinker till date, whom Adivasi people remember as Marang Gomke, means supreme leader. In independent India, he not only established the word Adivasi, but also organized various Adivasi communities at the all India level. Formulated and implemented politics of Adivasi Dom Adivasidom ideologically and practically. He was born on the 3rd of January 1903 in Takra Pahantoli of Khunti district of present-day Jharkhand state. Educated in Oxford, Jaipal was an international hockey player, journalist, writer, ICS, member of the Constituent Assembly and president of the Adivasi Mahasabha. He is the first Adivasi in India to leave the ICS for the country. Not only this, but he also had to sacrifice his beloved wife and children for the Adivasi movement. Whatever the Adivasis of India got in the constitution, the credit goes to Jaipal Singh Munda. Due to him, provision of 6th Schedule and 5th Schedule, and Tribal Advisory Council (TAC) for the 5th Schedule areas could be made in the constitution. The Tribal Ministry and the Panchsheel, made by Nehru government for the Adivasis, is also his contribution. This great Adivasi thinker and politician died on the 20th of March 1970.